Hello there, just a quick video to help you with some disability and the work that you're doing today. Now disability obviously is one of the major things that will stop people from actually taking part in physical activity. It is obviously something that can be looked at in various ways, but we're concerned with 4 main points. Those 4 points are physical disability, mental disability, whether you're permanently disabled or temporarily disabled, and they're the categories that you need to know in terms of how disability affects participation. So what I'd like you to do is think about writing on your keyword sheet those 4 areas, those 4 types of disability, and categorising and defining them in your keyword sheet. Now, disability, we all know that the Olympics has been on over the summer, but also we are also really aware that the Paralympics has happened about 2 weeks after the games finished. Those Paralympics were created to work alongside, so despite it sounding like paraplegics, it's actually parallel, which means working alongside the Olympic Games for disabled athletes. At last count, there were about 32 sports that happened, over 5,000 competitors taking part, and it is the pinnacle of a disabled athlete's career, working and participating in those Paralympic Games. They've got various different sports, and some of them are really familiar, ones that you would see every day on the TV, Sky Sports, BBC, whatever it might be, in the Olympic Games, participating at school. But obviously, they can't always do those sports. Now, they are governed by a committee called the IPC, the International Paralympic Committee, who's led, the chairman is a guy called Sir Philip Craven, and he was himself a professional basketball player, wheelchair basketball player, and competed in the '92 Olympics, and has since gone on to be the main man who organises all the Olympic Games. Now, what they do within the Olympic Games is they adapt the sports. So you might see some things like football being played with a bell inside the ball, so that they can hear where it is for blind people. To make sure that everybody's doing the same thing, or there's no advantage for some who are partially sighted and some who are not sighted. Everybody wears a blindfold. You might find other things like wheelchair basketball, like we mentioned, where people are in the wheelchair. There's no way that anyone can cheat in that. And other sports such as roll ball, which is where people lie down and try and stop the ball but going into a goal. All those sports are adapted to suit the needs of that individual who is taking part in that sport. Therefore, the disability is taken into account. Along with that, equipment is adapted. So, for example, if you watched any of the track and field athletics, you might have noticed that not all the time was the shot or discus being thrown in the way that we've seen it or we do it within school. They may have had a pole to hold on to. Some people actually used a piece of string and they had it attached to a big massive pole that they then used to propel themselves forward with a javelin. Other things like wheelchairs, obviously, in the track and field were adapted to make sure that they could go around corners and not just went in one straight line. And the list goes on. One of the things I'd like you to look at is do some research and go onto the London 2012 website, where you'll see where all the sports are listed in the Paralympics. Look at the categories. This is what we're moving on to next. Look at the categories. How does the equipment change in the sport that you are looking at? What are the changes in rules? What are the changes in equipment that are needed? That leads us nicely onto the classifications. Now, obviously, there are different levels of disability that we all have seen. Some people have no legs, some people have no arms. And in order to make sure that that's nice and fair, what they've done is they've made sure that they put people into certain categories. And in athletics, it's classified in T for track and F for field. So what it prevents is a person with no legs competing with somebody who's got missing, say, 1 or 2 toes. Somebody who's got partial sight going against somebody who can't see at all, who needs a guide to help them. Again, look at the website, write down the definitions and talk about what the classifications are. What is the most extreme disability that you might see or you might find? Finally, thinking about facilities. Sport is now becoming inclusive to everybody. Everybody can take part, but what we need to make sure is that obviously we can access for everybody as well. So therefore there are 3 areas of facilities that disabled athletes must now be accommodated for when you go to a sporting event. So whether it be going to the local swimming pool, whether it be going down to the park, whether going to a leisure centre. And those three areas are access, so doors are big enough, wide enough. Perhaps they might have electronic doors, the ones that you punch, so that you can open the door automatically. Parking, so they've got ample parking, so wheelchairs and storage can be kept close to the entrances. And then finally, the provision, so things like the lifts, escalators, if you have a partial disability. And all those areas, they're like little ramps going up to get access to areas. All those things are things that must be taken into consideration. Think about our school. Do we have any lifts to provide access for disabled visitors? Do we have anything that might be able to help anybody who has a partial disability? All these things are going into your considerations. Right, coming back to it, I'd like you to think about those keywords and definitions we talked about earlier. Physical, mental, permanent and temporary disabilities. Follow that up with what inclusion is. I want you to find out what inclusion is. And then talk about equestrian events, how they adapt to actually making sure that disabled athletes can take part. It's a big subject. You need to know quite a lot, but you need to know quite a lot in a short space. So read the textbook, pages 12 to 13, gives you a further idea. Use the PowerPoint that we provided for you, and then obviously complete that work. I'll be checking on your keywords and definition sheets when I get back. Best of luck.